What's good, YouTube fam? So I'm back with another video. In this video I've been wanting to do for a while, and it is a breakdown of the movie Soul. Now, the movie Soul is real, okay? I'm not sorry, but to all you Christian types and all of you religious types, you do not have to go through fake Jesus to get to the Father or whatever, as they say, okay? I'm going to break down the movie Soul. Now, the movie Soul is real. So the way I came about this movie, I was talking to my friend Kiyomi. Now, we don't talk often, so um, I was telling her about my DMT experience. Now, I did DMT before this movie ever came out, but by the time that I was telling her, because again, we don't talk that often, the movie was already out. So I'm breaking the movie down to her, I'm breaking my DMT experience down to her, and she like interrupts me. So I'm at the part where I'm telling her, like, yeah, I was with Spirit, and Spirit took me to like this big, it looked like a headquarters, huge room, and there were all these souls in there, and the souls were picking out their characteristics for human, for the earth realm, and they were picking out their faces, and they were putting all these characteristics inside of a Metatron's cube. So she stops me and she goes, Kamara, have you ever seen the movie Soul? And I'm like, I've never heard of it. And she's like, you're joking. And I'm like, no, I've never heard of this movie. And she kind of didn't believe me at first. And then she's like, literally everything that you're telling me is in this movie, down to the Metatron's cube, right? Like, this stuff is real, not a game. So then she told me it was a kid's movie. And I'm like, what? So I'm like, I have to watch this movie. Then I watched this movie and I'm mind blown, okay? Because I'm like, damn, they put it all right here in your face. We know that they do this, right? They have to tell earthlings certain things because nothing is new under the sun, okay? Everything that you see here on this earthly realm, the government and all of that, they got that from spirit world. They didn't make this structure up. They're copying the gods. They're copying what's going on in spirit world. So I'm going to break this movie down, right? So Joe, right? He's the teacher he's a music teacher. He dies in the movie. As he dies, he goes towards this big ball of white light. That really happens when you die, okay? And even you hear people who have near-death NDEs, near-death experiences, where they say, I went somewhere and I came back. But yes, you leave your body. Now, everybody doesn't have a soul, okay? Everyone has spirit. Everyone has a spirit. But not everyone has a soul. There are certain souls who created different beings that are on this planet, and those beings don't have a soul. They have spirit. That's why if you like listen to System of a Down, they say spirit moves through all things, spirit moves through all things, spirit moves through all things. Da, 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 da. That's real. Spirit moves through all things. So he dies, he goes towards this big ball of white light. I also experienced this in my past life regression. I died, my soul left my body, and it feels very light. You feel so light and airy. Like, we really don't have a knowing of how dense and heavy it is to be inside of a human body because we're used to it. We're just in one. But it feels very light to be outside of a human body. So he ran away from the white light. My mother committed suicide. My mother also did this. She ran away from the white light and ended up in a lower dimension. Okay, so when you die, you're supposed to go through the white light. When you go through the white light, there will be a being or one of your ancestors. Somebody will be there to greet you. It's the equivalent of what Anubis did, right? If you know anything about Egypt. And then this being will take you before your council. You chose your council before you got here. In the movie, they talked about the great before. That is a real thing. So there is a great before, and you choose everything for yourself. You choose your parents, you choose just everything, okay? The choice is an illusion. You know, you already chose all this for yourself. Even the bad things that you think you went through, like, you chose that for yourself as a challenge for some reason or another, right? So you're judged against your counsel. You also chose your counsel. So you're judged against your counsel, and they judge you based off of the goals that you set for yourself and whether or not you met those goals. Because once you get to Earth, you're going to forget everything. And the ones who do remember, like children will say like, oh yeah, I saw a spirit. Or I have a nephew who told me and his dad one time that he leaves his body when he sleeps, and he goes around his house and he, you know, watches his mom while she sleeps, and sometimes he'll go into different rooms in the house. And I told him, don't ever stop doing that, and don't ever let anybody tell you that you're not really doing that, because he's astral projecting. But because humans have been dumbed down and had religion and all this stuff banged into them, they think it's not real, and then they really take these gifts and this knowing from the children, right? So that's the whole white light part, right? And then you go into spirit world and you go through this whole process of basically being cleansed, and then you get ready to do it all over again. Now, you may not come back to Earth. You may go to some other planet or some other realm, wherever you choose this for yourself. You are the creator, right? So the whole part about the mentors, again, I saw this on my DMT trip. The mentors in spirit world, they named them all Jerry in the movie. They were all calling themselves Jerry, but there really are these mentors in spirit world that they're helping these souls pick out their characteristics and stuff, right? Also, 22, right? 22 was genderless. You remember it had a feminine voice, and it changed its voice, and it was like, well, I can talk like this if I want to, and it started changing its voice, and then it just started speaking like Joe as well. And that is true. There's no gender in spirit. When you're in spirit now, you do, as a soul, typically choose a gender that you prefer and stick with that, right? That's how, like, you have these transsexuals that are confused and they're like, I feel like I was born in the wrong body. It's because your ass probably been female in most of your lifetimes, and now you have to be a male and you're just confused. So that's really what that whole tranny thing is. So souls are genderless, right? So there's a part in the movie where they go through a portal to get back into Joe's body when Joe's in the hospital, right? And they have the cat, and 22 and Joe end up in the wrong bodies. And 22 is trying to explain to the doctors that it's like in the wrong body, that it's a soul that didn't want to come to Earth, and that it's in the wrong body. This is really what, and the doctors are kind of just like, you know, this is really what it's like if you're a spiritual person. Even me trying to explain this to a person who has no spiritual awareness, you sound crazy. That was kind of what, what was happening in the movie. That's really what it's like talking about spirituality to human beings. Now, there's also a part in the movie where Joe, when he was in spirit world, he was pretending to be a mentor. I think his name was like Dr. Burgeon or something. It was Dr. something with a B. And the souls were choosing their personalities, putting them inside of a Metatron's cube. This is also real. You really choose your personality types and these traits about yourself, and it goes inside of a Metatron's cube. The Metatron's cube is inside of your DNA. Your DNA is not junk DNA. They say 97% of DNA is junk DNA. Bullshit. Again, just lies on top of lies on top of lies on top of lies. There's so much intelligence in your DNA, right? So that Metatron's cube is in your DNA, and it has different codes and things in it, different things about that make you who you are. They did tons of rituals in this movie as well, which I thought was awesome. The creating of the portals, these, I don't like calling them elites. I like to call them deletes, but they really are constantly creating portals. There are certain places on the earth, because the earth has chakras just like we do. Like I've been to Mount Shasta, which is the earth's first chakra. There are portals there. This is real. There are really the Grand Canyon is a big ass portal. That's why they don't let you down there. There are certain places where they don't allow humans to go. It's because there's portals there. The Bermuda Triangle is a big ass portal as well. So I thought it was interesting and awesome that the movie highlighted portals and rituals. So we talked about the soul numbers, right? We all have a soul number. I'm trying to figure out what my soul number is still, but 22 didn't have a name, you know. It just had a soul number. We all have a soul number. Now, there's another part that I thought was really interesting in the movie where, dang, I can't remember the being's name, but he was the guy on that led the pirate ship, and he was like a guru. And when he would incarnate, he would be a homeless man. He was a homeless man that was waving a sign and dancing and all of that. So, and it's just interesting because this is really how these higher beings operate. So they were trying to figure out how they could get back into spirit world so that they could get out of these bodies, or how they could switch them around. And the homeless man said, you have to wait for a thin spot in the Earth's atmosphere when Orcus is in Gemini. Now, look up what Orcus is. I'm not even going to speak on it. Just go look up what Orcus is. Again, they dropping bombs on y'all. And then they said, well, when is that? And they said, well, the government calls it 6:30 because time doesn't exist. Time, the government calls it 6:30. Time is an illusion. And time has to do with numbers and frequency, because these numbers have a certain frequency. Even 6:30 in numerology is just the number 9, which is a number of completion, right? So you had to wait for a number of completion before we can do this ritual to get you back into spirit world. Dropping bombs. There's another interesting part in the movie. I watched this movie the other day with the kids, and I just wrote all this stuff down. There's another part in the movie where one of Joe's music students comes to his door and wants to quit jazz and wants to quit school. And 22, who's in Joe's body at the time, says state-sponsored education is like the rattling of a stick inside of a swill bucket. The ruling class's core curriculum stifles dissent. It's the oldest trick in the book. The oldest trick in the book. They're using education to poison your mind. This is why my daughter will never go back to a public school. I will never send my daughter back to a public school because it is a setup. It is a trick. Okay? It is, you know. It's really, think about when you go to school, you're like 5 years old and you have these grown people asking you what you want to be when you grow up. You don't even know, you don't even have an idea of all the different jobs that exist, or what all you can do. But that is programming, the oldest trick in the book. They're training you to go be a good slave and go work inside of the system. And they're going to use your energy for whatever they need to do so they can propel themselves forward. So I would implore you, especially now, because they're passing certain legislations and stuff where y'all are not going to have certain rights over y'all's children. Get your kids out of public school. Like, if COVID taught you nothing else, because a lot of people that were doing school from home, you were teaching your kids anyway. Like, even on Zoom, you still had to do a lot of work. It's really not difficult to teach your kids yourself. Also, I am going to be selling my homeschool program, which is spiritual based. So like the knowledge that I'm giving you all now, I want to teach the babies, because a lot of adults are too far gone and I don't even want to deal with them. But the babies still have a chance. So I'll keep y'all posted on that. I'm working on it. But I'm dropping a spiritual based homeschool program, and it's the program that I use for my daughter. And it's awesome because I teach her their lies and the truth. So she's going to be a monster, okay? But I thought that was really interesting that they said the ruling class's core curriculum stifles dissent. Dissent means a difference in opinion. So it's to get you all to think one way. Why do you think everybody thinks pretty much the same? And then if you don't think the same as everybody else, they literally attack you. Drop the bomb. All right. Also jobs and stuff. They had Terry, the accountant, who was counting the numbers, and Terry was like, the count is off. When he was counting the souls that were supposed to come through. Every job pretty much that you have on this earthly realm, or like the government, you know what I mean? There's nothing new under the sun. They have all that stuff in spirit world. We're basically here being copycats of what the gods are doing in spirit. So Terry the accountant, come on phone, I'm looking at my phone, pulls Paul into another dimension. Okay, remember Paul was the black guy who was like the pessimist at the barber shop. Remember, he was trying to get Joe and pull him back in the spirit world because he's like, you cheated the system. You weren't supposed to go back into your body. He pulled Paul into another dimension thinking he was pulling Joe in, and Paul was shook when he got back to Earth because he had to take him back because he grabbed the wrong person. This type of stuff really happens when you have people that y'all think are crazy and they're like telling you guys that they went into other dimensions and shit. That really happens, and sometimes it'll scare you and freak you out so much that you don't know how to manage then once you come back, because you've seen something that's so far beyond what you've been programmed to think that it can screw you up. So a lot of times these so-called crazy people are not crazy. All right, sometimes people who see spiritual activity, they're really seeing this stuff. Now, another part, this is the last thing I have, was 22 got in such a low vibrational state that it ended up in a lower dimension. So when we talk about hell, or if for all of you Marvel fans and stuff, Hades, this is a real dimension. This is a real place. When they say people who commit suicide go to hell, they're talking about Hades. They're talking about this low dimension, right? And remember, 22 had basically turned itself into a monster, right? It basically turned itself into this big black shadow like monster because it just had so much negativity. And on the inside of it, you had 22 who was like shook and scared and just, just saying negative things. I'm not good enough. I'll never be good enough. Da 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 da. This is all real. When they say people who commit suicide go to hell, this is somewhat true, right? Because you're in such a low vibrational state. You have to be in a low vibrational state to commit suicide. A lot of times, if your vibration is so low, you can get stuck here. Or not stuck here, but stuck in that dimension. And again, this happened to my mother. My shamana and some very powerful deities had to reopen a portal to get her out because she didn't go towards the light like 22 did. She said that the light felt too good, and she felt like her ancestors were there waiting for her on the other side. But then she remembered that she didn't even know who they were, so she decided to go away from the light, and she got stuck in this lower dimension. Also, they did a ritual, right, to try to help get 22 out of this lower dimension. All of that stuff is real, okay? I know a lot of y'all have been brainwashed with religion, but I'm just here to tell you that the movie Soul is they did such a good job on this movie, okay? And a lot of what's in it is real. They dropped so many jewels in that movie. It's probably stuff that even went over my head. And it's probably some things that I left out, but those were the things that I highlighted when I rewatched it with the children the other night. So if you're going to watch this, watch it with your kids and break this stuff down to them so that they have a better knowing that you really are a soul. You don't have to go through some other being to get to God. You are God already. You are the infinite already. You choose your own path. Time is an illusion. This is an illusion. It's just like a game. It's just like a game that you're playing. The same way when you play certain games and you pick out your character and you pick out which weapons you're going to be able to use and what skills you're going to have, that's the same thing your soul is doing before you get here. Okay? This is not a game. This is not a fairy tale. Okay? that's really all I have for you guys. If you've seen this movie and I missed anything, because again, I know I didn't catch everything. I don't know everything, but I know what I know. I don't speak on what I believe, I speak on what I know. So if I missed anything, put it in the comments, because it just intrigues me. I mean, I got really excited about this movie. So leave a comment, you guys. Subscribe to this channel. It's a new channel, The Unfashioned. And then give me a thumbs up.